Well, today on Sports Spectrum, we are at the Super Bowl. We are in Las Vegas, Nevada on Radio Row, and we got a chance earlier this week to kind of go to a few different events, Super Bowl Media Night. We got a chance to go to, media availability. And all of a sudden, I was looking around, and I saw these shirts, and guys were wearing them. It had God Behind Bars, and I'm like, I think we have a relationship with God Behind Bars. And as we got talking, we got a chance to meet up with Jake Bodine, who is the founder and CEO of God Behind Bars. Jake Bodine, welcome to Sports Spectrum.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
I love what God Behind Bars is about. I know that Sports Spectrum has a partnership and has worked with you guys in the past, but I really haven't had a chance to have a conversation with anybody from there to share with our audience about the great work you're doing. You're the founder and CEO, so why don't you give us just a little background on God Behind Bars? Let's start there.
Yeah, of course. I'll just give you a background on my life first. I grew up as a pastor's kid here in Las Vegas, actually.
Yeah.
I lived here for about 22 years before moving to Dallas, Texas. And during that time, I was playing football, high school football, played college football, both at UNLV for a short stint, got in trouble with some grade stuff, got transferred to Saddleback College in Mission Viejo, California, and that's where God kind of grabbed a hold of my heart. Felt like he was calling me into ministry. I didn't know what it was going to look like at that time. I moved back to Las Vegas mid-season and told my dad, hey, I want to explore what it means to be in ministry and kind of see what God has for me in my next steps. He got me plugged in at one of their satellite campuses where they were turning a high school into a living, breathing church every single week, and they would set up basically portable church. And one day I got a phone call from one of my childhood best friends' mom who said, hey, Ryan's going to go away to prison. Is there anyone at the church that can go and visit him? I'd reached out to my friends within my father's church asking if we had a prison ministry. They did not, and I felt like that was my Isaiah moment. God was calling me to fill that gap, and as I began to kind of explore that mission, he gave me a vision to literally make the local church the concentrics of everything that you do, and that we would basically introduce inmates to a relationship with Jesus and connect them to the local church by partnering with local churches all across the U.S. and helping them plant churches inside of prisons. And so we've been doing that since Christmas Eve 2009. It's been an amazing week here at the Super Bowl. We've been interviewing amazing Christian athletes, getting to share their testimonies with inmates inside of prisons. We have an app called the Pando app that is on about 450,000 plus tablets inside the United States prison system, streaming to over 1.7 million inmates, and it's been absolutely amazing what God has already done through that platform. But we're kind of putting together a Super Bowl special, introducing them to some of their favorite stars on one of the world's biggest stages and using it for the glory of God.
I so love that. You say that Isaiah moment, I presume you mean, here I am, Lord,
yes,
send
sir.
me.
Yep.
And when you think about that, that's a poignant moment for somebody to act on and put their hands open and say, okay, God, not only do I trust you and you're my Lord and Savior, but here I am, send me. It's almost the dangerous prayer that I talk about when Jesus is sweating drops of blood. He knows he's about to go to that cross, and he says, please take this cup away from me, but yet not my will, but yours be done, which is pretty much saying the same thing.
Right.
What are those moments like that you've experienced here on your own journey, but even since God Behind Bars has kind of become what it's become the last few years?
Yeah, I think number one, when you're ready to pray that prayer, just be careful, because like when I said send me, I was like talking about going and visiting my friend Ryan, but then it grew into this massive vision of reaching inmates all over the world, and that's what God ultimately called me to, which was absolutely amazing. But I think that also very few of us, we take the first step. In fact, this is a secular book, but one of my favorite books that I'd read, there's a story of a man who's standing inside of a forest, and he's got his horse with him, and he can't see anything in the forest, and he's scared. And the horse is a talking horse, and he asked him a question. He said, can you see your first step? And the man looks down, and he says, yes. And he said, then take that one, and then keep taking the next one, and keep taking the next one. And I really feel like that's how God is. He's not going to just kick open the door and show you the full pathway. You got to just keep stepping by faith, taking the next step, and ultimately the vision will come into fruition of what he wants it to be versus what we want it to be.
Why prisons? Why inmates?
Man, honestly, I think I have a heart for the underdog.
Yeah.
even in sports, like I'm always rooting for the underdog, and wanting to see someone triumph over all of the adversity that they're facing, that they're down and out, no one believes in them, basically zero odds to be successful, and I love to root for that person, and that's kind of how I feel with the inmate population. They've been counted out many times. Society says what they are. I mean, maybe even them themselves label what they are. But my mission in my heart is to show them who God says that they are, and give them that hope to cling on to in defying all odds, and ultimately making Him the leader and forgiver of their life, and showing the world that it's only through Him that true life change happens.
Why is sports and athletes that you've partnered with and been a part of? I know Russell Wilson has done some work, and we saw, I think that's when we first learned about God Behind Bars and seeing what Russell was doing with some of the inmates. But why is sports such a unique way to not only share the gospel? I mean, we know that because that's what we live in, Sports Spectrum.
Yeah.
But just a way to connect with these inmates, and they see these guys doing the thing on the biggest stage, but yet so many of them are humble, love the Lord, and it's a great way. So why athletes? Why sports?
I think it's like almost an innate nature in each and every one of us as a child that we would get to play on a stage like this, and this is what you dream for when you start Little League Baseball or Little League Football. It doesn't matter the sport. Your dream is to make it to that next level. And so you grow up with these guys as icons and guys to look up to, heroes in some people's eyes. And so we use that platform that God has given them ultimately to share His purpose with each and every one of those athletes. It's guys that they look up to, guys that they trust, guys that they follow, who have major influence in their life, and they get to steer them towards the one true influencer, Jesus Christ. We're gonna take advantage of that platform all day long.
Give me a testimony of someone you've seen. There's probably thousands upon thousands, but is there one that sticks out from an inmate that, man, he either did something terrible, which maybe they all have, but Christ got a hold of his life?
Yeah, in fact, one of the things that more than Christ is still working on his life. I was just in a prison in Texas called the Allred Correctional Facility, and I walked down the segregation unit, and this man has been locked up in a little 7x10 cell for almost 16 years. He gets out for maybe 30 minutes a week to walk 10 feet down to another cell, go inside, take a shower, and come back. And he is a shot caller for a major gang affiliation inside of the corrections. That's why he has to be segregated from the general population.
Sure.
And literally, I was talking with him, and first off, he asked me the question of, how do I know you? And I'm like, that's not a question you want to be asked. I'm like, Hope from the Pando app. And he's like, yeah, Pando. That's Pando. He's like, I've been watching that, man. Thank you so much. He's like, it keeps me going. He's like, I love the content on there, and God's kind of starting to stir in his life. Wow. But one of the warden had made a comment. He said, hey, you know what you have to do to get out of here. Like, just do it. And basically what he's saying is that he had to renounce his gang affiliation to get out of there. And the guy looked back at him and he said, I'll die in here.
Wow.
And the loyalty, number one, I was like, we need Christians like that.
We do.
You know what I mean?
That'll say, I'll die, I'll do anything, and I'll die for Jesus.
Yeah. But two is, like, I began to process that moment. I'm talking weeks after that moment. And I'm going through the things. I asked the warden, like, is he fearful of his life if he renounces it? And like, no. And he had some basically simple answer, like, it's stubbornness or whatever else. And I'm like, there's no way. God just steering that in my heart. And I felt like one night God gave me a vision finally for this moment, and he gave me this man's childhood, and that he wasn't loved by his mother, he wasn't loved by his father, he was abandoned. And then finally he stepped into a brotherhood where he found his love in this gang affiliation. These were the guys that took him under their wing, they loved him, supported him, had him at his back. And when he was asked to basically renounce his gang affiliation, it was like saying, hey, I want you to disown your family. And they would be like me, giving up the Bodine name in order to have a little bit of freedom.
Yeah.
And how hard that would be. And so, it's guys like that I'm after. It's guys like that our team is focused on. And we're seeing God to start working in his life. I know that we're going to have a story here in the next few months of him completely dedicating his life to Christ. We've seen guys release their patches before, and I'm praying for that man specifically that he's going to do it too.
That's heavy-duty stuff, Jake. I mean, the stuff you're seeing, and that's why I love what you're doing, because this isn't just the dude who did something and he's in jail for what he did and you're in there. I mean, those are great stories too, but some of this is really deep-rooted, heavy-duty kind of stuff you're working through here.
Yeah, and it's not all just rainbows and unicorns either. Like these are men that are still very much affiliated with their past. There's strongholds, addictions, a lot of different things that are rooted in their hurt, and so this is a messy ministry. And our goal is to show no condemnation, no judgment, introduce them to a relationship with Jesus Christ, and then let the Holy Spirit do His job in convicting them of the things that need to be changed in their life and better them as a Christian.
I hope people listening, because this has been a real stickler. I've been a Christian for 23 years, and for the first 15 to 20, I've always been what I would say more of the comfortable side of being a Christian.
Yeah.
You know, I would support God behind bars, but I don't know if you'd ever get me in a prison.
Yeah.
I would support homeless ministries, but I don't think you'd ever get me to sleep overnight in a homeless shelter. You know, I don't want to get messy. And something changed. I'm not saying I do this all. I'm very, I fail at this a lot. I'll just say that because it's still uncomfortable. But there's something about when you get uncomfortable that you really allow the Lord to move in a pretty powerful way. Because I'm guessing for you, Jake Bodine, that this isn't just something where you're seeing these inmates touched by the Spirit of God, but it's helping you too.
Oh man, every day. That's what I think I'm passionate about. I think that I'm passionate about the radical life transformation that God had in me, the hope that I get to cling on to every day. I think as Christians, we think that once we say yes to Jesus, that our life is going to look perfect. No, it's messy. There's hurts, there's trials, there's things that we have to get through. But the difference is that we have someone to lean on in those moments, in those times. And I'm passionate about giving the same hope to those individuals. I'm not saying your life's going to be perfect. I'm not saying that you're going to get freed from prison physically, but you will be freed from the prison that is within you when you say yes to Jesus.
So many of the inmates I've talked to, I've done a lot of work on forgiveness, wrote a book called Live to Forgive, and know the struggle with forgiving someone, my dad in particular, who was abusive verbally to me and my brothers, alcoholic. I had a hard time forgiving. It was a prison that I was stuck in by not forgiving my dad. It was me. It wasn't nothing to do with my dad. I was the one that was stuck in these sort of chains that were wrapped up, holding me hostage, if you will. You've probably seen a lot of bitterness and anger and unforgiveness that's been released because of the power of Christ with these inmates, I bet.
Oh, man, unbelievable. In fact, one of my favorite stories in the Bible is the story of Joseph, and it's Genesis 37 through 47. If you have the chance to read it, I encourage you to. But one of my favorite things about Joseph is the fact that no matter what trial or tribulation, his own brothers wanted to kill him. They sold him into slavery. He goes to Egypt. He gets a friend in Potiphar. Potiphar's wife gets jealous of him, makes a false accusation towards him. He goes to prison. All of these horrible things happen to him, but in every moment, he sought the Lord and he carried no offense. And it's amazing how the Lord works. He redeems everything. In fact, Joseph becomes the second in command into Pharaoh's kingdom. God gives him two sons, and his first son's name is Manasseh. And Manasseh actually means to forget the pain of my father's household. And so that's what I believe. Many of us as Christians, even though we've said yes to Jesus, that we need our Manasseh moment. We need the spirit of Manasseh to come upon us and literally forget the offenses that other people have caused us, because Joseph was able to do and accomplish what he was able to do because literally he sought the Lord and he carried no offense.
That's beautiful. Forgiveness is a powerful thing, my man. I want to talk about this Pando app real quick before we wind down. 400,000 prison tablets, 360,000 first-time decisions for Christ. And the reason this Pando app exists is because there's no phones in prison. There's no, people aren't just carrying around an iPhone and they can just check, Instagram whenever they want.
Right.
So this is a way that's been obviously vetted through the prison system to be able to get these tablets and then offer this Christ-centered content to others. By the way, as people are asking, okay, what's that mean? Well, Sports Spectrum's content is on there.
Yeah.
So there's opportunities for inmates to come across some of the Sports Spectrum videos and different conversations that we've had, and all of this is designed to be intentional to help people grow in Christ.
Yeah, it's about meeting them where they're at, right? What their interests are. A lot of
That's
guys
right.
in prison love sports, and so if we can use content like that in order to position and share the gospel, that's what we want to do, and that's why we love our partnership with Sports Spectrum. But yeah, Pando actually came out of COVID. All the prisons in the country shut down.
Yeah.
We knew they were going to be the first thing to shut down and the last thing to reopen, and our team said, hey, how are we going to reach these people? Tablets, there's different tablet companies and providers that exist out there that create high security tablets for prison environments, and we were kind of the first third party to come to those companies and say, hey, we want to build this. And for 6 months we figured out all the coding and security parameters that we need to be within, and on January of 2021 we piloted it in Arkansas on about 3,000 tablets, and it's since then grown out to over 451,000 tablets nationwide. Like you said, I believe that we are approaching 1.7 million users on the Pando app. We've seen 361,000 decisions for Christ, which I'm an evangelist, so that's my favorite part.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I absolutely love it. Those are 361,000 real fingers that have clicked that button that said, I want to make Jesus the leader and forgiver of my life. They can't click it multiple times. It's a one-time deal. And so we're passionate about the life change that's taking place in prisons.
It's going to be really interesting when we get to heaven.
Yeah.
And see who's up there, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, in fact, my dad says this all the time. He said, I think we're going to be surprised by those who are there and by those who aren't.
Sadly, on the other end, those who aren't. Well, Jake Bodine, you're doing great work, man. GodBehindBars.com is the website people can go check out. He's the founder and CEO, Jake Bodine. This is great stuff, man. Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
so
you
glad
as
we
well.
could connect in person, and let's talk again soon.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on.